Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff.
Today, just to tell the truth, so hopefully we can get down to the bottom of this. I'm 100%, the charges against me are 100% false, and hopefully due to time, we'll start to see that.
The story of Sean Diddy Combs has always been one of power, ambition, and unparalleled influence. But behind the flawless suits, chart-topping hits, and carefully curated public persona lies a web of secrets so tangled it seems to pull tighter with every revelation. The man who once declared himself the bad boy for life now finds himself on the edge of a precipice, surrounded by accusations, betrayals, and a conspiracy so vast it could shake the entertainment world to its core. What's happening here is bigger than one man. It's the kind of tale that makes you question just how deep the rabbit hole goes.
I want to mention one other quick thing. They can't find witness number 3 still. This is apparently an ex-girlfriend of Diddy's who was one of the alleged victims. And prosecution can't find her.
Right, I heard.
Let's start with the most chilling piece of the puzzle, the alleged assassination attempt. Yes, you heard that right. According to whispers from sources close to the case, there was a very real, very calculated effort to silence Diddy permanently. The details are murky, but insiders suggest it wasn't some random act of violence or a spur-of-the-moment decision. This was planned, orchestrated, and executed by people who knew him well. People who, allegedly, wanted to keep their own skeletons buried by ensuring that his voice would never be heard again. It's like something out of a Hollywood thriller, but this isn't fiction. It's the grim reality of a man whose life has become a battlefield.
What his team is trying to do is get the public to assume that the government is leaking some of this negative information about him, like that Cassie video. But the reality is, he's got a lot of enemies.
But why would anyone want to go to such lengths? The answer, it seems, lies in the sheer scale of what Diddy knows, or what people think he knows. For years, rumors have swirled about his connections to powerful elites, shadowy deals, and an underbelly of the entertainment industry that most of us can only imagine. Some say he's sitting on a treasure trove of secrets that could bring down careers, reputations, and even entire institutions. The allegations against him, ranging from coercion to unethical practices, are explosive enough on their own. But when you add the idea that Diddy might have dirt on others, the stakes skyrocket. If he talks, it wouldn't just be his empire crumbling. It could be an earthquake that rattles the entire industry.
In her civil lawsuit, Cassie said that she was the victim of abuse, assault, and at the hands of Diddy.
Then there's the matter of his inner circle, a cast of characters who seem to be playing their own dangerous games. Former friends, business partners, and even allies have started to distance themselves, some quietly, others more publicly. And in the process, the whispers have grown louder. People are asking why certain individuals, ones who once stood firmly in Diddy's corner, are now nowhere to be found. Is it guilt by association? Fear of being implicated? Or is there something more sinister at play? A coordinated effort to isolate him and cut off his support network? The betrayal stings even more when you consider how tightly Diddy controlled his public image. He was the ultimate puppet master, pulling strings behind the scenes to maintain his dominance. But now the strings are fraying, and the people he once trusted are pulling away, or worse, pulling against him. Some have even suggested that the recent threats to his life weren't just about silencing him, but also about sending a message to anyone else who might think about stepping out of line. It's a chilling thought, but in this world, loyalty is often a currency that can be traded, and alliances can shift in the blink of an eye.
The defense wanted to propose a question on, after the potential jurors filled out their questionnaire, have they seen any news media, any documentaries, anything just relating to a news medium, and whether or not they saw it in between them filling out the questionnaire to Monday morning when they saw, or when they go to jury selection.
And here's where it gets even darker. The accusations against Diddy aren't just confined to his personal actions, they also hint at a much larger, systemic issue. The idea that he operated within a network, a web of power players who all benefited from the same unethical practices, paints a picture of an industry that's rotten from the inside out. If the allegations are true, then Diddy wasn't just a lone wolf. He was part of a pack. And that pack, it seems, is now willing to turn on him to protect itself. Consider the names that have been linked to him over the years. Some of the biggest stars in music and film, People who have stood shoulder to shoulder with him at award shows and red carpet events are now finding themselves under scrutiny. The connections are undeniable, but the question remains, how deep do those ties run? Are they guilty by association, or is there more to the story? And if they are involved, even peripherally, how far will they go to ensure their own secrets stay hidden?
A U.S. judge has ruled that the rapper and producer Sean Diddy Combs will stand trial on federal trafficking and racketeering charges in May. He'll be held in prison until then. Sean Combs has pleaded not guilty to charges that he used his business empire to transport women and male workers across state lines to take part in recorded performances. If convicted, he could face a life sentence.
Of course, Diddy's legal team is working overtime to frame this as a witch hunt, a coordinated effort to bring down a black man who climbed too high, too fast. It's a narrative that resonates with many, especially given the historical context of how society deals with powerful figures who don't fit the mold. But even as his lawyers argue that the allegations are baseless, the sheer weight of the evidence, or at least the perception of it, is hard to ignore. Court documents, witness testimonies, leaked footage. Every new piece of information adds another layer to a story that's already almost too wild to believe. And then there are the whispers about the so-called freak-offs, those infamous gatherings that have become a central point in the allegations. While Diddy's team insists they were consensual events, others paint a very different picture. These weren't just parties, they say. They were carefully curated spectacles designed to blur the lines between entertainment and exploitation. The fact that some of these events were allegedly filmed only adds to the intrigue. What kind of leverage could those recordings offer, and who else might be implicated if they ever saw the light of day?
This investigation is ongoing, and I encourage anyone with information about this case to come forward and to do it quickly.
But perhaps the most haunting part of this saga is the idea that Diddy himself might not be the ultimate villain or the ultimate victim. Some believe he's both a perpetrator and a pawn, a man who climbed to the top only to find himself surrounded by enemies on all sides. If that's true, then the real question isn't just about what he did or didn't do, it's about what he represents. Is he a symptom of a broken system, or is he the architect of his own downfall? And if he falls, who else might go down with him? As the walls close in, the tension is palpable. Every day brings new revelations, new betrayals, and new questions that demand answers. But one thing is clear, this is far from over. The story of Sean Diddy Combs is still unfolding, and whatever happens next will undoubtedly send shockwaves through an industry that thrives on secrecy.
Attorney is trying to find her, and her attorney has said that she may not be willing to come and testify anyway, so
be interesting.
And as if the tension wasn't already suffocating, the courtroom drama surrounding Diddy's trial has thrown gasoline on an already raging inferno. Just when you think the case couldn't get messier, the disappearance of a key witness, dubbed Victim 3 in the legal documents, has sent shockwaves through the proceedings. This isn't just someone who might have had a small role in the trial. No, this was supposed to be a star witness, someone prosecutors were banking on to deliver jaw-dropping testimony, someone who reportedly held the kind of explosive details that could shatter Diddy's defense like glass meeting pavement. And now, she's gone, vanished without a trace. Here's where it gets murky. This isn't just a no-show situation. Prosecutors aren't merely dealing with a witness who decided to stay home and binge TV instead of taking the stand. They can't even find her. She's off the grid entirely, and if rumors are to be believed, this disappearance wasn't exactly voluntary. There's talk, wild, frantic talk, about intimidation, about pressure being applied from powers that don't want her story told. Her lawyer, too, is reportedly unreachable, buried under personal issues, though what those personal issues are remains suspiciously vague. The timing of all this? Impeccable. Almost too impeccable.
Which, again, the judge kind of made this a point, too, talking about, okay, well, if we're going to continue to do sidebars each and every single time that a prospective juror has to talk about a sensitive topic, that could take up a lot of time. But again, the defense and the government both seem pretty confident that they'll still be able to kind of get it going at a quick pace. This isn't unusual to do in these types of high-profile cases. So that was pretty much just the topics about, going.
And let's not forget, this isn't just about one missing person. This is about what her absence means for the case. She was supposed to testify about years of mistreatment, about being pulled into a world she couldn't escape. Her story wasn't just another brick in the wall, It was the cornerstone of the prosecution's narrative, the one that would establish patterns, connections, an entire framework of behavior that Diddy has been accused of orchestrating. Without her, the prosecution is scrambling, and the defense team, they're seizing the opportunity with both hands, pushing the narrative that her disappearance is proof of nothing more than a weak case. But is it? Or is it proof of something much darker? That the stakes here are so high, someone might have decided it was worth playing dirty to keep her quiet. The courtroom itself has become a spectacle, a high-stakes theater where every move is scrutinized and every whisper carries weight. Diddy's defense team, led by some of the most high-powered attorneys money can buy, has been relentless, demanding answers about the missing witness while simultaneously applying pressure to dismiss her testimony altogether. Meanwhile, prosecutors are stuck between a rock and a hard place, trying to save their case while fielding questions about how someone so crucial to their strategy could simply vanish. And the judge? Well, let's just say you can feel the frustration radiating from the bench as this trial spirals further into chaos.
I suppose it could be coincidence. I don't think it's coincidence, and especially given the nature of the case.
Yes.
Because when you look at who is examining these various witnesses, especially female alleged victims, of which there will be 4.
But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The courtroom isn't just a battleground for legal arguments. It's a microcosm of the industry fallout that's unfolding in real time. Because make no mistake, this trial isn't just about Diddy anymore. It's about an entire ecosystem of power and privilege, one that's been thriving in the shadows for far too long. The entertainment industry, glitzy, glamorous, and so carefully curated, has been shaken to its core by these allegations, and the cracks are showing. Behind the scenes, there's panic. Executives, producers, former collaborators, they're all scrambling to distance themselves, issuing carefully worded statements that say nothing while trying to scrub their names from any association with Diddy. But the thing about scandals like this is that they have a way of pulling everyone in. The tighter you try to hold onto your secrets, the more likely they are to slip through your fingers. And for some of these industry players, the secrets they're holding on to could be just as damning as the allegations against Diddy himself.
Now, to the latest on the arrest of Sean Diddy Combs. This one has so many people talking. The disgraced music mogul facing federal racketeering, conspiracy, and trafficking charges. Both the prosecution and defense teams are set to discuss the next phase of action following the indictment as investigators work to determine potential co-conspirators. But how exactly did we get here?
Consider the whispers about other high-profile figures who've been linked to him over the years. People who were regulars at his infamous gatherings, who shared stages and studios and maybe more. Are they innocent bystanders, or were they complicit? And if they were complicit, how long until their names start surfacing in the courtroom, dragged into the spotlight by association? The entertainment world is a tightly knit web, and when one strand is pulled, especially one as central as Diddy, the whole thing starts to unravel. And let's not forget the lawsuits piling up outside this trial, each one painting a more harrowing picture than the last. There's the lawsuit from a former model who claimed she was lured into Diddy's orbit under the guise of professional opportunities, only to find herself trapped in a nightmare. She described being subjected to demeaning treatment at private events where she alleged attendees were encouraged to treat her and others more as commodities than people. Another accuser, a former employee, alleged in her suit that her job required her to procure participants for Diddy's controversial gatherings, claiming she was threatened with consequences if she didn't comply. These lawsuits aren't just about individual incidents. They're pieces of a larger puzzle, one that prosecutors and the public are struggling to put together.
Hey, real quickly, all that commissary stuff, he's not getting any of that because people in the SHU have an abbreviated list. So he's out of luck. No stake for him. Yeah, he is on watch. This guy thought he would have went home. All of a sudden, he didn't get bond. Remember, the first night that he was there.
Then there's the chilling accusation from a former music producer who worked closely with Diddy during the early days of his career. In his lawsuit, he claimed he was coerced into facilitating activities that left him racked with guilt and fear, describing a culture where saying no wasn't an option. He alleged that witnessing the treatment of others pushed him to the brink, yet he stayed silent for years out of fear of retaliation. This suit, like so many others, has been dismissed by Diddy's legal team as baseless, but the details are damning enough to make you wonder if even half of this is true. How was it allowed to go on for so long, and who else knew? And perhaps the most haunting of all is the case brought by a former associate who claimed she was not only a witness but a victim of Diddy's alleged manipulation. She described in her lawsuit how she was drawn into his world through promises of mentorship and career advancement, only to find herself entangled in a system where power dynamics were weaponized against her. According to her, Diddy used his influence to isolate and control, ensuring that she felt there was no way out. Her case, like so many others, has been buried under legal denials and public relations counterattacks. But the echoes of her story resonate deeply with the accusations being aired in court right now. It's all adding up to a portrait of an empire built not just on talent and ambition, but on a foundation that's looking shakier by the day.
This is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in a jail cell right now, I think it really underscores the magnitude of what he's facing and the weight of the federal government.
And let's talk about the evidence. The prosecution has hinted at a treasure trove of material, from video footage to text messages to financial records, that could paint a damning picture not just of Diddy, but of the entire apparatus that supported him. But here's the catch. Some of this evidence involves other people. Big names you know, names that are being whispered in hushed tones around Hollywood right now, as people wonder just how much collateral damage this trial could cause. Because once those names are spoken in court, there's no one ringing that bell. Careers could end overnight, legacies could crumble. And for an industry that thrives on image, on perfection, on the illusion of untouchability, that's a nightmare scenario. Meanwhile, the public is watching all of this unfold with a mixture of fascination and horror. Social media is ablaze with theories, with hashtags, with grainy screenshots of court documents and blurry photos from the trial. Diddy's supporters are loud, vocal, spinning the narrative that this is all a setup, a takedown of a man who dared to rise too high. His detractors are just as loud, dissecting every piece of evidence, every courtroom slip-up, every connection that paints him in a darker light. And then there are the bystanders, the ones who don't know what to believe but can't look away. Because this isn't just a trial, it's a spectacle. A public unmasking of the kind of power dynamics most people only ever read about in novels or see in movies.
It's a question of that, but when you read through the indictment, it's pretty clear who could be indicted as a co-conspirator. Right now, there are people in the indictment who would be considered unnamed co-conspirators, but clearly have played a role in this conspiracy. And I think prosecutors have some big leverage on them because they're hoping that they testify against Diddy as prosecution witnesses.
And yet, for all the noise, for all the headlines and viral moments and heated debates, there's an undercurrent of something more sinister. Because this trial isn't just about what's happening in the courtroom. It's about what's happening outside of it. The power plays, the alliances, the betrayals. The deals being made in backrooms and boardrooms, where the stakes aren't just about guilt or innocence, but about survival. Because for some people, what's at risk here isn't just their reputation, it's everything. So where does this leave us? With a trial that's spiraling further out of control by the day, with an industry desperately trying to shield itself from the fallout, and with a public that's left wondering, what's the truth? Who's really pulling the strings here? And how far are they willing to go to keep their secrets safe? Let us know what you think down below, because if this is the tip of the iceberg, what's lurking beneath the surface might just be unimaginable. We'll see you in the next one.